Have you ever wondered what it would be like to struggle daily for basic necessities, only to have your work eventually sell for millions after your death? This financial whiplash represents the lived experience of many of history's most celebrated artists. Consider Jean-Michel Basquiat, once homeless in Washington Square Park, whose paintings now command nine-figure sums at auction. From the shadows of obscurity to the dazzling lights of the auction block, this video examines the financial realities of 5 extraordinary artists, revealing their path from poverty to posthumous wealth. Their stories challenge our understanding of artistic value and raise uncomfortable questions about recognition, timing, and society's delayed appreciation of genius. The numbers behind some of the world's most celebrated artists reveal a startling economic reality. To truly understand the magnitude of their journey from poverty to posthumous wealth, we need to examine the cold, hard figures that defined their daily existence. Vincent van Gogh, perhaps the most iconic example of this phenomenon, sold just one painting during his lifetime, The Red Vineyard, for a mere 400 francs, equivalent to roughly $2,000 in today's currency. Yet in 2017, his masterpiece, Starry Night over the Rhone, carried a valuation of $200 million, representing a staggering 100,000-fold increase in value. Van Gogh's financial circumstances were desperately meager. He survived on approximately 3 francs per day, barely enough for absolute necessities. His brother Theo's monthly allowance of 150 francs provided his sole financial lifeline. The Yellow House in Arles, where he created his masterpieces, consumed 15 francs monthly in rent, leaving little for food after purchasing essential art supplies. His meals typically consisted of stale bread and small portions of cheese, sometimes washed down with the cheapest wine available to dull both hunger and emotional pain. Jean-Michel Basquiat navigated similar financial wastelands in 1970s New York. After eviction from his $80 per month apartment, a sum he frequently couldn't cobble together, he slept on park benches in Washington Square Park regardless of weather conditions. His survival depended on selling hand-drawn postcards for $1 each and hand-painted shirts for $25 to fashionable New Yorkers, artistic expressions that barely secured him a single daily meal from the cheapest East Village diners. These early struggles unfolded against the backdrop of an art world that would later canonize the very expressions of alienation born from his economic hardship. Frida Kahlo faced the dual burdens of artistic obscurity and overwhelming medical expenses. Her modest teaching salary of 500 pesos was immediately consumed by treatments for injuries from a devastating bus accident, with body cast treatments alone costing 800 pesos, far exceeding her income. When she managed to sell paintings, they typically fetched between 300 to 400 pesos, insufficient to cover her specialized care. This economic reality forced a painful financial dependence on her husband Diego Rivera that contradicted her fiercely independent nature. The contrast between these artists' financial circumstances during their lifetimes and the current valuation of their works is nothing short of astonishing. Van Gogh's portrait of Dr. Choe sold for $82.5 million in 1990, while Basquiat's untitled skull painting achieved $110.5 million at auction in 2017. Kahlo's Diego and I established a Latin American art record at $34.9 million in 2021. The economic paradox becomes even more pronounced when examining their financial status at death compared to their posthumous value. Van Gogh died with less than 150 francs to his name. Yet today his estate generates over $300 million annually from merchandise and reproduction rights. Basquiat experienced brief financial success before his death, but nothing approaching today's market for his work. The walls he once illegally spray-painted now sell for millions when extracted intact. Kahlo's financial struggles persisted throughout her life, yet her image has become one of the most commercially successful artistic identities in history. Her unibrow, an emblem of feminine resistance, adorning merchandise generating millions in revenue she never saw. Unlike the tragic figures whose fortunes materialized posthumously, a rare breed of artists has witnessed their financial metamorphosis unfold within their own lifetimes. The stark contrast between early poverty and later success reveals how dramatically art's economic value can transform during a creator's lifetime. When Facebook approached graffiti artist David Choe in 2005 to paint murals for their first headquarters, they offered him a choice: $60,000 in cash or equivalent company stock. Choe, who later described himself as chronically poor, chose the stock, a decision he initially called ridiculous and idiotic. 7 years later, when Facebook went public, that idiotic choice transformed into approximately $200 million, creating one of the most dramatic rags-to-riches stories in contemporary art. This financial reversal seems almost incomprehensible against Choe's troubled background. Between 1996 and 2001, he drifted between homelessness across Los Angeles, New York, and international destinations. Unable to afford art supplies, he frequently resorted to shoplifting paints. His relationship with the law remained precarious. He once spent 3 months in a Japanese prison because he couldn't afford the $500 bail for graffiti charges. Before his windfall, Choe sold self-published comics from his backpack for $2 each, occasionally landing commercial illustration work that paid meager sums, sometimes as little as $300 for projects requiring weeks of effort. Japanese artist Yayoi Kusama's financial journey follows an equally dramatic trajectory, though over a much longer time span. During the 1960s in New York, Kusama survived on approximately $200 per month, barely covering basic necessities. On the coldest nights, she would wrap herself in newspapers for warmth before venturing out to collect discarded food from grocery dumpsters, while creating the immersive installations and infinity net paintings that would eventually make her a global sensation. Working odd jobs at the minimum wage of $1.25 per hour, she struggled despite critical acclaim while her male contemporaries like Andy Warhol began building financial empires. The market transformation for these artists unfolded like butterflies emerging from long-dormant cocoons. For Kusama, the metamorphosis began with a series of retrospectives in the 1990s that reintroduced her work to a new generation of collectors. Her paintings, which sold for approximately $2,000 in 1980, steadily increased in value until White No. 28 achieved $7.1 million at auction in 2014. A single painting now generates more wealth than she could have imagined during her decades of financial hardship. Choe's transformation happened almost overnight. His Facebook stock gamble coincided with his rising profile in street art markets, and his documentary Dirty Hands, which chronicled his troubled life. The combination of personal notoriety, institutional recognition, and incredibly fortuitous timing created perfect conditions for extreme financial change. Their living situations transformed as dramatically as their bank accounts. Kusama, who has voluntarily resided in a psychiatric institution in Tokyo since 1977, now presides over an art empire, generating over $70 million annually. Her polka-dotted installations have become global phenomena. Choe, once homeless, now owns multiple properties valued at over $15 million, including a former warehouse converted into a studio complex, physical manifestations of artistic journeys that defied the conventional posthumous path to financial recognition. What we've witnessed across these artists' lives is a profound personal tragedy. Individuals who created timeless beauty while struggling to afford basic necessities. Their stories reveal an uncomfortable truth. The art market doesn't simply recognize merit. It constructs value through complex mechanisms that routinely fail living creators. This pattern persists today. The art world undervalues living artists while posthumously celebrating their genius once scarcity can be monetized. When we visit museums displaying works worth millions, we participate in a system that historically exploited the creators themselves. Are we waiting for market validation before supporting today's artists? Consider how we transform a lifetime of hardship into astronomical posthumous wealth. The ultimate paradox where suffering becomes a prerequisite for value in a system that needn't exist at all.